Reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 27, Text 6. Tasyaham ajanayat putran puranjanyam puranjanaha satane katha saviran ayusorutanathayagan. Tasyam, within her, ajanayat, she begot Putran, son, Puranjanyam, in Puranjani, Puranjanaha, King Puranjana, Tatani, hundreds, Ekadash, 11, Virat, O King, Ayushaha, of life, Ardam, half, Atha. In this way, Satyagat, he passed.
That's recorded.
Translation: The great sage Narada then addressed King Parikshina by said, O one whose lifespan is great, Virat. In this way King Puranjana begot 1,100 sons within the womb of his wife, Puranjani. However, in this business he passed away half of his lifespan. Please respond. The great sage Narada then addressed King Parikshina by said, the one whose lifespan is great, Virat. And this way, King Puranjana begot 1,100 sons within the womb of his wife, Puranjani. However, in this business, he passed away half of his lifespan. Purport by Divine Vedesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhu. In this verse, there are several significant words. The first of which is Ekadash Sakani. Puranjan had begotten 1,100 sons within the womb of his wife and thus passed away half of his life. Actually, every man follows a similar process. If one lives for 100 years at the most, in his family life he simply begat children up to the age of 50. Unfortunately, at the present moment, people do not live even 100 years. Nonetheless, they beget children up to the age of 60. Another point is that formerly people used to beget 100 to 200 sons and daughters. As per the evidence from the next verse. King Puranjan not only begot 1,100 sons but also 110 daughters. At the present moment, no one can produce such huge quantities of children. Instead, mankind is very busy tracking the increase of population by contraceptive methods. We do not find in the Vedic literature that they have ever used contraceptive methods, although they were begetting hundreds of children. Tracking population by contraceptive method is another sinful activity, but in this age of Kali, people have become so sinful that they do not care for the resultant reaction of their sinful lives. King Puranjana laid down with his wife Puranjani and begot a large number of children, and there is no mention in these verses that they use contraceptive methods. According to Vedic scripture, the contraceptive method should be restrained in sex life. It is not that one should indulge in unrestricted sex life and avoid children by using some method to check pregnancy. If a man is in good consciousness, he consults with his religious wife. As a result of this consultation with intelligence, one advances in his ability to estimate the value of life. In other words, if one is fortunate enough to have a good, conscientious wife, he can decide by mutual consultation that human life is meant for advancing in Krishna consciousness and not for begetting a large number of children. Children are called parinam, or byproducts. And when one samsara is good intelligence, he can see that his byproduct should be the expansion of his Krishna consciousness. Omagyanatimirandasya jnanam jnanashalakaya chakshudharmilitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sattvitam Yena Bhutale Swan Rupakaraman Vilati Swapranditam Shri Guru Shri Gopāl Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sakajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sadi Sattvitam Savadutam Paridinam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sahagana Vadita Shri Shakamitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabantu Jagatpate Gopisha Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Savanamita Devi Pranamami Hare Vanchākalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanekyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Vedanta Swami Namine Bhagavan Upacharine Vishesha Punyavadi Paschatyadesakarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Gadadhara Shiva Shri Gora Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you again joining on the Sunday class, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 427.6. So Puranjan is continuing his household life where he got 1,100 sons and 110 daughters. Of course, this seems to be a little bit, what is the word? Mythological. That how could one get so many children? They think this is not a practical thing because, I mean, women nowadays, the most they can produce 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. I remember my grandfather, he had a family of 16 children. I come from a family of 8 of us. But my down line is only 1. So you see, of course I think his will have been 25 maybe. Because they marry when they are very young, about 8 years old, 10 years old. You can see there's a part where Prabhupada was saying about his father. His sister was getting of age and he could not find a husband for her. So, you know, women, before they reach puberty, they must be married off, you know. It was the system in Prabhupada's time. So the mother was getting on his father's case. And he said, what can I do? I'm searching, I cannot find anybody. And she said, I will take her and go and jump into the Ganga. Because it is a thing that before she reaches the puberty, she must get married. That is the injunction. So see how all these rules are now been particularly neglected. Now they marry, I think when they reach almost 30, 35, 40. So when you are in that age, how many children you can produce? Actually, the whole idea is to not have children. There's no Prabhupada in the book. Because they think that married life is for sexual indulgence and not take the responsibility of children. In fact, many couples they marry and they on the condition they have no children. As is kind of stipulation. So you can see how the age has become very degraded. The sexual, what we say, conduct is more of trying to gratify their senses rather than trying to please the Lord. That's why Lord says, in this verse, Balam Balavantam Chaham Kamaraga Vivargitam Dharma Aviruddho Bhuteshu Kamasmi Bharata Shubha. Sri Krishna is saying, I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life which is not contrary to religious principles or law of the Bharata Arjuna. So in other words, if anyone has performed sex life, husband and wife, against the religious principle, then it is become dharma viroda. The two words, dharma aviroda means not against, and viroda means against. So when you do an activity which is against religious principle, then it is tantamount to a sinful activity. Makes logical sense. So if we go, this is why I say that doesn't mean that you are married and that's it, you can, do anything you want. No. There are regulations. There are rules. Even in populating. Because when you transgress this, then the result of reaction is very, 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 what do you say, painful. Very painful. The society has gone to such an extent they don't care for this reaction. They are not bothered. They try to prevent the child, and if somehow or other they get the child, and it's a matter of $5 getting it off the ground, finish. Yeah? It is a matter of $5 you go and pay the bill, to the doctor. And the gynecologist, you just, do some, sneaking and that's it. Then you're back again and jumping around. But they don't know the consequence. The consequence of doing sinful activity is very, very, very painful. It is not some joke. I remember I had a friend, he was just across the causeway, he was running a clinic and he was a gynecologist. He was a gynecologist. So we warned him, please don't do this. Yeah, you can be a gynecologist to deliver children, but if you become a gynecologist to do abortion, that is pretty bad. But he said, what to do? I have got equipment, I have got all these things, I have to pay them off. I said, you cannot do this. So then what happened? He was having illicit affairs in his clinic with one of the nurses. This was going on. So then his wife came to know about it. And what she did, she bought herself a can of petrol and went home, poured on herself, and immolated herself and died. So they had 2 children, wife died. Okay, he was looking after the family. Then what happened? He extended his business. He bought a big building, and then in the building he wanted to have his bigger business, and he was going to rent out some places. So on the pretext of trying to rent his premises, a group of men came. Actually the man happened to be the nurse, wife, husband. So they showed around, and then they brought him to one spot. And then what they did, they caught him and they slit his, all his intestines came out, and he died. I'm talking about a real story that I personally witnessed. So that finished. Husband died, wife died, children become orphans, and they had to go back to India because I think their relatives are in India. The house is finished, the business is finished, everything is finished. Not only that, he has to suffer that consequence of not seeing another son for as many births as he has committed this sinful activity. So therefore, this is not something that we can take it very lightly. I also have experience of, somebody working in the, what is that department? The childbirth, Huh? Is it? Pediatry. Pediatry is looking after the babies. So the childbirth is, and she is telling me that kind of cases that come, children are born without anus, they are born without genital, and the doctors have to reconstruct and all this, take something and put there, and there's so much of pain. Imagine you are a parent and you're getting child all like this. Why? Why you are getting all this kind of reaction? Because it's dharma avirodha. You cannot try to take this very lightly. Because sinful activity is sinful activity. You cannot transgress the mundane laws of the state. Similarly, you cannot transgress these laws written by God. So when we try to do all this kind of shortcuts, try to enjoy the senses without trying to be responsible, then the reaction is going to be overwhelming. The reaction is going to be overwhelming. There's also a case of somebody I know, and he, at the advanced age of almost 50, 60, as Prabhupada said here, they were having children at 60 years old. And they got a child, but then the doctor said that this child is acoustic and so say you please abort. So he aborted the child, and the consequence was he got into a terrible accident. Terrible accident. Practically could not walk so much. And then his wife, consequently, she died. Got some kind of a mental disease. So you see how, I can go on and on and on. There's so many stories. Those who work in the hospital, I'm sure they have many more tales to say. But this Shastra here is saying this. We cannot take this very lightly. Krishna consciousness is not, something that we can transgress the law. and sense gratification. That's why Arjuna said, what is that verse? Arjuna Vacha, Atha, is asking this question. Atha kena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anicham api varshneya baladeva niyogitaha. This is point here in Sanskrit. You see what she's saying. O Arjuna said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful act, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? See the point here. You understand here what he's saying? Yeah. He knows, but he is engaged by force. What is this thing that is forced to commit this sinful activity? What is that? Krishna answers. Krishna says here, the next verse, very important. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Kameja Krodeja Rajaguna Samudvaha Mahasana Mahapatma Vidiyenam Deva Vaidinam. This is a simple answer Krishna said. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it's lust only, Arjuna, lust, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion, later transformed to wrath, which is a all devouring sinful enemy of the world. That's why the whole program, the whole Bhagavatam yesterday, we didn't finish. Correct? We only have to canto 4. Already enough. Yes. See how much it is so dangerous to play with fire. Yeah? How much dangerous it is to play with? Can burn. You get what? Huh? You get what? What do you get? Huh? You get burned. Touching fire, you're not careful, you get what? Although it seems very nice, family situation, everything is first class, married according to rules, regulations, but anything can happen. Correct? So this lust. It's so dangerous. And so the whole idea of the Vedic system is to curb this lust. Of course, to curb it under rules and regulations. But in modern living, there is no rules and regulations. When you see the kind of house you are living in, you have a master bedroom. The whole house is centered on what? Master bedroom. Then what? Built-in toilet. And then what? Nobody else is there. Except you and your own. Right? So all this facilitates. Then put it together. This is the concept of what? The modern. Right? Modern method of living. You know. You understand? So when you have such an environment, it promotes the mode of passion. But contrary, Krishna is saying, please cut this off. Check this. And the only way to check this, unless you become spiritually. Unless you become spiritually. Lust cannot be controlled by any other mode than the mode of goodness. The mode of? It cannot be checked by any other mode. It's not possible. You know, it's not possible. And if doing the mode of goodness means you must become religious. Yes? Yeah? So explain. I think in the next verse also Krishna said. The wise living entity's pure consciousness become covered by the eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and burns like fire. So, right? So you see how it is so very, what we say, detrimental. That's why Krishna explains here in another place. Krishna explains here, Sri Bhagavan Vacha again, Sattvam Rajas Tamayiti Guna Buddhena Cha Atma Sattvena Yata Mahu Anyat Sattvam Sattvena Chaivale. Supreme Personality of Godhead said that three modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance, pertain to material intelligence and not to the spirit soul. By development of material goodness, one can conquer the mode of passion and ignorance. And by cultivation of transcendental goodness, one may free oneself even from material goodness. So the whole idea is to come to the mode of goodness. At least start. Our whole idea is to come to that. Then our consciousness will become purified. Then we will not be contaminated by mode of passion and ignorance. The moment we breathe the moment of Krishna, that is sinful. And one thing leads to another thing, and then the consequence is going to be very painful. As I have already related all these incidents of people who have gone through so much of pain. Now why I should get into this thing? Is that intelligence? Is that intelligence? Is not intelligence. Our whole idea is to follow the direction of given by Krishna and the spiritual master. Then you see, everything will become, very, very auspicious. See? When the living entity becomes strongly situated in the mode of goodness, then religious principles characterized by devotional service to me become prominent. One can strengthen the mode of goodness by cultivating of those things that already situated in goodness, and thus religious principle arise. There is no other shortcut to this. There cannot be and will not be. This is the sum and substance of how to escape sinful life. How to escape sinful life. If we don't want to adapt this method, then the consequences are going to be very, very, very painful. And it's not going to be very light, because we have to sufficiently take birth in hellish situations. And when we go to hell, we have to pay for the dues. A person indulging, if you come to sex life, even some people are even grown, they even have sex with them. It's also said, very much contaminated. You see how much it can go. There is no limit to lust. As Krishna says, it burns that. So therefore the only thing, the disease, this disease is from the heart. Kamam hrit rogam. Kamam, lust, is the disease of the. So the heart is also a pure place. That's where the Lord is sitting. So unless we connect back to the Lord and purify our heart, then the lust will overwhelm us. And that's going to be very, very, the consequence is going to be painful. We don't want to get into this kind of a living condition. That's not good. But on the contrary, you can have hundreds and hundreds of children. There's no objection. Of course, if you can. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, if I have to have children, I will have hundreds of children, but I want them to be Krishna conscious. So therefore, in order to get to that, we therefore have to perform austerity. Yeah? Just like you see, what's the name? Krishna and Sutapa. Huh? In order to get a child like Krishna, they had how many years? 12,000 years they were performing austerity. 12,000 years. What is that austerity? What austerity they did? Huh? What austerity they did? They had dry leaves. They had what? And there is no one today. 12,000 years. Prabhu, that is doesn't mean that you just jump into the bed and tomorrow you produce the same like Prabhu. That's going to happen? Huh? What? Come on, it makes sense. You have to do austerity. And what is the austerity? Huh? Yes, come for Mangalarti. Take up the devotional process. Follow the principles. Right? And you can do this thing. Definitely you will be blessed. Blessed by the Lord. Especially if you engage in preaching. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was praying for a ray of Vishnu, correct? And he had a child. Who's that? Huh? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He's not some ordinary person. When he was born, they put the mother brought the boy to the cart, Jagannath cart, and so many flowers on garland fell on him. You know, then he could understand, oh, this child is special. So we need to have that kind of special children. And that means we have to become devoted husband and wife. And we have to take the blessing of the Lord. That is required. So how to please the Lord? We have to please the spiritual master. Huh? You cannot go and please the Lord without pleasing the spiritual. One person was asking me a question. Jai Sri Ram. Prabhu, when we are making an offering, we just offer to Prabhupada, and then we meditate that Prabhupada is going to Krishna, and Gauranga is going. I said, you don't do all that. You just simply bring it and give to Prabhupada, and then finish. Your job is over. Jai Sri Ram. You don't try to kind of, speculate that you are carrying Prabhupada to the Boga to go to Thailand, from there you are carrying. Our whole idea is Yasha Prasada, Bhagavad Prasada. We offer the thing to Prabhupada, our spiritual master, and he will do the rest. You don't have to go into it. Similarly, our whole spiritual life should be based on this one aspect, to please the Spirit. Then everything will be adjusted. Everything will go on by the mercy of the Spirit. In fact, it is said in the scripture that even the householders, if they want to have children, they must get permission from the Guru. It is there written. You must go get permission from the spiritual master to conceive a child. That much control is there. Because this is our instruction. So the whole idea is to have Krishna conscious children. As many as you can. Because first it's going to be again a Krishna's blessing, not that every time you have a relationship you don't have a child. It doesn't make sense. Only by the blessing of the Lord. So in order to invoke the blessing of the Lord, you definitely need to perform this also. And it should not be tainted with lust. If this activity is tainted with lust, and because in lust you forget the Lord. When you do the activity of conceiving, the whole idea is that they should be trying to remember the Lord and praying all the time that please you give us a child that's going to be very, a devotee who's going to be blessing, doing preaching work or doing Krishna consciousness. At least that should be the prayer. But if you are so lusty, then how can this come into the mind? It cannot take place. It will not take place because you are overwhelmed. So therefore, to get into such a consciousness, you definitely need to become very clear. That Prabhu said, for the householders they have to conceive, at least they should chant 50 rounds a day. Then the devotee has 50 rounds. It is good as not doing it. That is the idea. That is the idea. You understand? Because it's not something very, what we say, a cheap activity. If you cheapen the process, then loss will become. When loss comes in, then the consequence is going to be drastic. So therefore, to become Krishna consciousness, most sublime. And praying, just like the Papa and Krishna praying, please, you please, give us a child who will be very Krishna conscious. We want a child like you. How can there be a child like me? Either me or not. Nobody can be equal to me. As Krishna said, Sama, Asama, Urdavam. There cannot be anybody equal or above me. That's not possible. Mata Parantaram Nanja Kinchidasti Dhananjaya. So there cannot be someone better than me. Not possible. So therefore I will come. I will come as a child. And actually I've come 3 times. This is my 3rd time. So then after this you will go home to the spiritual world. So the whole idea is to conceive children in that channel. Otherwise, if you have got children, then again another thing. If you get children who are not Krishna conscious, Varna Shankara Vijayate, and that whole subject is there. You saw in chapter 1, 2 of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, 144, Arjuna is explaining. If I kill all these men, then the woman will be unprotected. When a woman unprotected, there will be unwanted progeny, and unwanted progeny, the whole world is chaos. Actually, the whole world is in chaos because of unwanted. When you have unwanted progeny, it becomes a hellish situation for everyone. Not only even for us. It is difficult. Cannot preach, the guy doesn't listen. It's like talking to a wall. And it's very frustrating. Because the consciousness is so polluted. You understand? So therefore, the woman and the householder, they play a very crucial role. Because the whole world, bringing about good progeny is in the hands of them, especially the women. If they are not chaste, then the consequence is going to become very, very painful. That's why chastity and producing good children is sole responsibility, practically of the woman. She has to become very Krishna conscious. Then yes, they have very nice children, and the children are Krishna conscious, and there is no problem. They will then do all the religious activities, Arjuna say, offering as Pinda Udataha, offering the Pinda. But even you don't do Pinda, although nowadays nobody is there doing Pinda. At least if they chant Hare Krishna. If the children just say Hare Krishna, they will deliver the parents. And nowadays children also don't want to say Hare Krishna. Huh? What's the point? What's the point of having children who don't want to say Hare Krishna? That at least you can get that much done. Then he says, you are in. So to produce Krishna conscious children should be the objective, and it should be of very much endeavor for, and that comes by austerity. Nothing can come without austerity. So austerity should be the, what we say, goal of the husband and wife. They want to live together, they want to have good children. I'm sure everybody will get married, they want to have children. Otherwise, household life is very painful. Without children, graha, putrahina, graha, sunyam. If the household life has got no children, then the house is empty, sunya, 0. And it's very painful for parents. So, parents also want children. So they want to have good children. So the formula, the secret is this, that you do austerity and you surrender to Krishna and you pray, chant more around, serve the devotees. That's another thing, Vaishnava Seva and Go Seva. These are all very pleasing activities. So when the devotee is served, When Krishna becomes pleased, and when Krishna becomes pleased, then he rewards accordingly. And when you get a child who is very, very Krishna conscious, then your life is very successful. So that should be the objective. Rather than following this other path, using all contraceptives and just jumping in and doing all kind of things, yeah, then the consequence is going to be very drastic. And then you're going to live with it for the rest of your life. It is not just that one day it's finished, no. As it is saying, that the child, when it is born in such a defective manner, it's Varna Shankara, then whole life you will be crying. Whole life you will be crying. Wow, so much pain, so much trouble to maintain also. You have to work hard, you have to bring up this whole, it is not some, joke. It is explained here. And this verse you can see, this is a verse spoken by one Avadhuta. In the human form of life, man and woman unite for sensual pleasure or sex, but by actual experience we have observed that none of them are happy. Therefore, seeing the contrary result, I have stopped taking part in materialistic activities. Next verse is more important. The actual form of life for the living entity is one of spiritual happiness, which is real happiness. This happiness can be achieved only when one stops all materialistic activities. Material sense enjoyment is simply an imagination. Therefore, considering this subject matter, I have ceased from all material activities and I am lying down here. So even in the household life, you make that into a spiritual activity, that's why it's called Grahastha Ashram, then you will be very happy. The Prabhupada said, if the householder is practicing Krishna consciousness, then he is no different from the sannyasi or the brahmachari, whatever. No difference. But it is not, that thing is going to become. So please consider all these points and try to become Krishna conscious. That should be our objective. And try to make at least the whole house Krishna conscious. Introduce the chanting, get the wife to chant, And if you can have your spiritual discipline, I'm sure, as Krishna says, for my devotee, Kaunteya Pratijane Bhāgavatam. So my devotee is going to have. So try to become a devotee, and therefore follow the rules laid out by the spiritual master, and I think they will become no problem. We definitely need many householders, actually they are all householders here mostly, and we also need many children who are going to become Krishna conscious. We definitely need, because we need unlimited number of devotees to preach Krishna consciousness. We cannot do it with a token force. We need a very, 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 what we say, strong team of devotees. So the householders have a very big responsibility. Just like a Puranjan, he produced 1,100, you can produce at least, I don't know what, 1,100. At least you have, some children who are Krishna. Yeah, everything. So okay, we'll stop here and we have anything further to add on the subject. Alright, so we have no question. Thank you very much. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki